Tennessee This Week from WATE's 6 on Your Side starts now.
Hi everyone, welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Lori Tucker. So glad you could join us, and we certainly have a lot to cover this morning. We want to begin with controversy over possible changes at Chilhowee Park. On Tuesday this past week, Knoxville City Council decided to postpone a vote that would have allowed Mayor India Kincannon to sell a portion of Chilhowee Park to the Emerald Youth Foundation. Let's set the stage here. 6 on Your Side reporter Naomi Homer was at that meeting where people on both sides of the issue shared their opinions.
Hundreds of people filled the main assembly room as Knoxville City Council prepared to vote on the fate of Chilhowee Park. While many were for the sale,
I am grateful to be able to share my fervent support for this project.
Others were against it.
I urge you, vote no or postpone this. For if you allow this, you will be opening a Pandora's box you cannot close.
Under the proposed purchase agreement, the city of Knoxville would sell part of Chilhowee Park, which is currently being used as a parking lot.
The facility will offer year-round access to safe and modern, even state-of-the-art athletic fields, courts, and walking trails that combat the chronic health issues by increasing daily physical activity for youth and adults.
But while many say this could be a win for children in East Knoxville, others were pointing to the need for more information and plans for the area's future.
Concerning the 1,400 people that I do represent here today, our ask before council is that you halt all negotiations and all speaking of selling of that property for 6 months so that we are able to retain legal counsel to represent this community.
Ultimately, the city decided to postpone the vote by 2 weeks, with 6th District City Council member Gwen McKenzie saying she will host a meeting next week with the public to discuss what this sale could bring.
I want to ensure that people are aware and have accurate information regarding the details and what this facility could potentially bring into our community.
And the Emerald Youth Foundation said while they were anticipating a vote, they respect the council's decision to postpone. In Knoxville, Naomi Homer, 6 on Your Side.
All right, you saw Vivian Shipe there saying this is going to open up a Pandora's box. It certainly seems like it's doing just that. Let's bring in our panel of pundits to talk about this issue. Joining us today, Craig Griffith, Shelley Breeding, and George Corda. Welcome to the three of you. We just heard several different opinions. Did someone make the best point?
Well, I think what you conclude is that the Kincannon administration did not do their homework on this issue. You have a very successful Emerald Youth Foundation facility in Lonsdale that's helping the community. It has a healthcare center in it. It's helping the children of that area. And I think that they felt that that goodwill was going to carry over, that Steve Diggs, the head of Emerald Youth, was such a known commodity in the community that people would trust him. And they failed to do an adequate public participation project on this selling of the property that would become the Emerald Youth Burlington area. So I think it's a failure of the city administration to do that process without getting out in front of this and having public meetings on it and seeing, what people think of it, what they also think about the impact on the fair. The fair is going to be losing the Jacobs building. This part of the Chilhowee Park used to be the Midway, but now it's an area where they park their trucks and vans for the people that run the fair rides and things like that. So I think a more robust public participation project could get you to where you want to be down at the end of the road. And it's up to the administration to do something like that.
Shelley, what about you?
Same. I think there was a lack of transparency in what was happening, and I think that's happening now with some community meetings that are happening. Emerald Youth, like Craig said, has been, very successful in other parts of Knoxville. As a sports mom, I spend a lot of time at ball fields. I think that's going to bring people to East Knoxville. I think it may bring development to that area. I think ultimately it can be a very good thing for the community. But again, like Craig said, you've got to get out, tell people, let people hear what's going to be said, and then also the fair is huge in Knoxville, and explain how is this going to impact the fair? What's going to happen with the fair? Is there an alternative location? What is that plan? Because no one in this community in East Tennessee at all wants to lose the Tennessee Valley Fair.
And that has not been explained. We haven't been told where it may end up. George, you're accustomed to helping people handle their message.
Yes.
How did they do here, the city?
Well, it falls under an old saying around Capitol Hill in Tennessee. If I ain't up on it, I'm down on it. And that's what happened with these folks. What are you talking about? But the reason they were down on it, typically when an administration, whether it's a gubernatorial administration, presidential, or mayor, whatever, when they try to do something really fast, it's because they don't want a lot of talk about it. They don't want a lot of discussion about it. When I was in city government, I can't remember the specific issues, but I know there were times we said, okay, we don't want this talked about too much, let's just move it through. So something is going on in the background here. I talked with a Tennessee Valley Fair official today who said that a year or so ago, or 2024, they were told you will sell this land or you will lose your lease that allows you to do the fair, and we'll take it by eminent domain anyway.
Really?
And I said, is it okay if I say that? And she said, yeah, you can say that.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, so there's something muddling around in the background here that is yet to be fully understood. But the people at Tennessee Valley Fair have been screaming about this for a long time. And they say nobody's talking to us, they're telling us. And so I don't know what that's all about. Emerald Youth Foundation is a great organization, but there's a reason the Kincannon administration sat on this till a week before they wanted to vote on it, and that's what nobody knows.
Well, I would dispute that.
Yeah.
Chilhowee Park is a public park. It's owned by the city of Knoxville. There's no land that the fair owns. The city leases that property to run a 2-week fair in the fall every year.
But it's been going on for
well,
years.
You can dispute it all you like, Craig, but they paid them
For
$114,000
the lease,
For
yes.
the lease. They can't sell the property. They don't own it.
The city can't come in and condemn its own property.
No.
So,
Dan, I tell you what, why don't you
you
take up that conversation with the folks at the Tennessee Valley Fair who told me specifically, we'll take we own the property, and they said they'd take it by eminent domain if we didn't give it up.
You're saying that the Tennessee Valley Fair organization owns the property that the city is talking about
I'm telling you what
selling?
they told me.
Well, I think they're misinformed.
I don't know how
Yeah,
they own that.
they probably have no idea what they own.
Yeah.
Don't
I don't know how
Yeah.
they own it when the city council is
Yes.
voting to sell the property that the city owns. I don't know how
Right.
Tennessee Valley Fair would own that property.
That's a good question.
Right.
But
And there are
that's
lots
That
of
doesn't make
questions.
sense.
And there
Yes.
also was a RFP went out on this property for people to come and come up with proposals to use it. And Emerald Youth was the only people that responded to that RFP. Of course, you can ask, RFPs, did they just go to Emerald Youth, or how far wide were they distributed? How many people knew about it? And so, again, I think it's up to the administration, if they want this to actually happen, to come up with a robust public participation process.
And there is that meeting we talked about, like you
Yeah,
said.
but here's
so
how
let's
those
not
work.
cover
Don't
that.
worry,
We
one
need to move
meeting
on in
is
a
not
second.
going to be enough.
Here's how those work. If you're an administration and you've already decided what you're going to do, you can hold 10 public meetings, say, we held 10 public meetings, and there were these people who said this, and these people who said that, and now we're going ahead with what we plan to do to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be a blocker for what you already intend to do. Having a public meeting is not necessarily relevant to the ultimate decision. And so what I'm saying is, for whatever reason, either horrible staff work or with reason of forethought, they waited till the last minute to say, okay, we're going to bring this up to a vote. And some city council members said they found out about it reading it in the paper. So there's a reason for that, and that's what's not known.
But the people
Lots
who
of
are
whys.
voting here, it's not just the administration, it's city council who are elected. So I think they're going to listen to their constituents, because otherwise they're going to get voted out of office. This is how the process works.
You'd be amazed at the amount of power a mayor has versus constituents.
I agree.
You
the
do
mayor
this
has more
for me,
power.
or I'm not going to do that for you.
Let's leave it at that. We will be asking questions next week, but so far there are still a lot, and we're going to try to get to the bottom of it and see what's going on there. Let's switch gears for a moment. Knox County Commissioner and mayoral candidate Larson Jay pumping the brakes, if you will, on his proposal to phase out the county wheel tax, saying he's requested it be moved to the March agenda after Commissioner Terry Hill suggested having it pushed back closer to the annual budget season. What does this new development say about the future of Jay's proposal, and how does it make him look?
Well, as we said on this program, when he initially came up with the idea to do away with the wheel tax, is that there are other tremendous needs in the county, and whether this was the right time, especially when you have the balloon payment issue that they have coming up in their budget in the next couple of years because of massive spending by the Ragsdale administration on senior citizen centers and libraries and things like that. That bill is coming due. And so the question is, do you want to reduce your revenues right now when you have this expense coming up? And of course, from Jay's point of view, he's running for mayor. It's never bad to propose a tax cut. So maybe he encountered more pushback on the proposal than he had envisioned. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out when they do their budget and whether they can do away. Mayor Jacobs was in support of doing away with the wheel tax. And one of the things that Jay said when he announced this was that, it was put on there to build a downtown public library. That obviously never happened.
We know how that works
and we
out.
don't have that. And it was put on by a vote of the people. So maybe it's something people have already voted on it. It should be continued, or maybe there's enough largesse, enough spare money in their budget to do away with it.
Is there ever enough spare money?
Sure. There's always plenty of money, depending on what you want to do with it. There's rainy day funds, things like that you can cover your expenses. Expenses like are coming up at the juvenile detention center that are going to have to be paid. So yes, I think you can find money to replace if it's something you want to do.
Shelley?
I think it was a good idea for his campaign to propose this. Even if it doesn't go through, he can say, hey, I tried to reduce the taxes. I proposed this. I tried to do it. Even if he knew on the front end, I don't know if he did or not, that it's not going to fly. But like Craig said, there's a lot of money in the budget and things that are coming up. The balloon payment, Knox County Juvenile Court, where I spend a lot of time, there's going to be a lot of money needed there. And so if you do take away the revenue from the wheel tax, where is that extra money going to come from? Also, people are used to paying it. It's not an increased tax, so I'm going to be kind of surprised if they do get rid of it. But again, either way, Jay can say for his campaign, I proposed this, I tried to do it, I did my part, this is what I'll continue to try to do it as mayor. Whether or not it passes or not, I still think it benefits his campaign.
Yeah, $36 per vehicle we're talking about.
Well, it's interesting. People, they don't really care about $10 million spent by city council or county commission. But $35 or a $5 a month increase in property tax, something like that, they get cranky about that. And this was put in part, at least in part, to help avoid a property tax. County mayors, I think the last county mayor probably was in office around 1905 when there was a Property Act increase. Whatever reason, Larson is not going to get hurt by this, and it's just too far out.
All right, we'll leave it at that. We have much more to talk about on Tennessee this week, including how members of the Tennessee National Guard are being deployed to Washington, D.C. Don't go anywhere. We're back in 90 seconds. Our pundits are still talking. Welcome back to Tennessee this week. Tennessee now joins states like West Virginia, Ohio, Louisiana, South Carolina, and Mississippi in sending troops to Washington, D.C. Around 160 members of the Tennessee National Guard have been deployed to the nation's capital to help with President Trump's federal takeover. Let's bring back our panel of pundits to talk about this issue. George, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm uncomfortable with the idea of uniformed U.S. troops, either active duty or National Guard, doing police responsibilities in an American city. It's a little bit like what happened during COVID. It's not that leaders found out how much they could make people do things and how much power they could actually exercise. And I don't think the Trump administration set up in any meaningful way the basis upon which to say there is such an emergency, crime emergency in Washington, D.C., that it requires the military in the form of the National Guard to assist the Washington, D.C. police. I think it was, everybody knows crime's bad in Washington. Heck, Joe Scarborough on MSNBC said he's getting calls from people saying, gosh, crime is really terrible here.
But what about reports that crime is actually down?
Well, there is a one Washington, D.C. police commander has been suspended and is under investigation for false crime statistics. The head of the police union in Washington, D.C. says it is preposterous to think that crime has fallen 67% in the last 2 years.
But all this came out after the troops were deployed.
That's right. It wasn't set up ahead of time, and it just makes me uncomfortable to see troops in this role.
You normally don't think of the National Guard as being a patroller. You know, it's usually
Correct.
in times of natural disaster and things like that. What do you think about this?
Emergency times. And I
Correct.
can't believe for once I actually agree with George on something. This is like a first on this show. But yes, having our military perform a police role, that is not the goal of the National Guard. Again, they come in if there's a hurricane, come in to restore order, to keep peace, to help the local community when asked usually. But to have them in D.C., again, there are many cities with worse crime than D.C. And so why D.C.? Obviously, President Trump is there. He wants to have a federal presence there. But that is not the job of the National Guard, in my opinion, nor should it ever be the Guard's job to be there as police in an American city. Having the federal government take over an American city in this way, what's next? What city is next? And if that city doesn't want the National Guard there, what happens? I think it's a very dangerous precedent. It's a very dangerous path to go down. Like George said, there was nothing set up, that there's an emergency, there's this crime spree going on, that we need help immediately. Nothing like that, because it's not happening there. And to me, this is very disturbing that this is happening, and I am concerned of where Trump may try to deploy troops next in our country.
Is this just part of a big chess game? Let's move this so we can talk about this.
Well, yes, it's political theater. It would be interesting to me, and it'd be more relevant if the National Guard was in the areas of Washington where there was crime in high numbers. As George said, there's been places in Washington that have been known to have crime, but the people we're seeing are walking around the Washington Monument and the Capitol building and things like that, not in the hood where much of the crime is occurring. Those are the people that actually want National Guard in their community, and yet they aren't seeing him in their neighborhood. So, if the Guard was out in some of these neighborhoods at 2 a.m. in the morning, the people that live there would be very happy. But as it is, this is just political theater now, so that you can show, like Doge was political theater. It come in with her gold-plated chainsaws saying we're going to cut the budget. And by the way, where are Doge checks that we were going to get that Mr. Musk said that we were going to get after he did his thing?
The thing
Doge, it came in, it did its work, but yet, as I've said on this program many times, if you're going to address the federal budget, you have to address Social Security, you have to address Medicare, and the defense budget. 2 out of 3 of those went up in the next budget.
But about crime in Washington, you could make the argument that the National Guard is patrolling these places and it leaves up more police to do crime fighting. But I don't think that's a very strong argument. If this were truly serious, then the federal government could send in federal law enforcement officials to take over the Washington, D.C. police force and say, okay, we're gonna straighten this out. The National Guard is Chris Matthews, who was on MSNBC for years, said, this is a trap. Because if Trump says day, Democrats say night. Trump says he's for it, they're going to say he's against it. And Matthews was saying, holy cow, he's now got Democrats defending crime. It's a trap, and they're walking right into it. So there is a political calculus underway here as well.
Now, because
political
DC
theories,
is
and a judge has already said that the National Guard the federal government can't take over the DC police force.
Well, because DC is a district, doesn't the president have the power to do that? He can't do that in states, am I correct?
No, he can't do that in Washington. He can't take over and direct the Washington police force. A judge has already said that's against his authority. And secondly, under the laws, they can only stay there for 30 days. Is crime going to take a vacation for 30 days and then come back after that? So it wasn't well thought out, and they need to come up with a much better plan.
But if it's a political calculation, it's perfect.
And why didn't our governor send
I don't think
National
it is. I don't
Guard?
think it's popular.
Why didn't our governor send the National Guard to Memphis, which has a much higher murder rate than Washington does? We need people to protect those landmarks in Memphis. We need them to, we need the rendezvous. We need to make sure people can get to the rendezvous. We need the ducks that go up in the Peabody Hotel.
I'm not worried if I'm at the Peabody.
Here's one of the things that polling is showing nationally, that Trump is perceived, and this is as a positive, whether you guys like him or not, as a strong leader. And this is evidence to a lot of people who, they don't live and die by this stuff. They see this as evidence of strong leadership.
No matter what it is?
Yeah, like I said, it's doing something about crime. By gosh, he's doing something.
For the people who think that there's more crime in D.C. than what all the crime statistics show,
I'm talking about politics, Shelley. You're talking about statistics.
Well, I'm talking about reality. This is what I'm talking about, is that what is actually happening in D.C. to have the National Guard.
D.C. is a dangerous place, and anybody who lives there or visits there knows it.
No.
But is it worthy of the National Guard emergency?
From so many different states.
No, it's not.
No.
All right, on that note, we're going to take a break really quickly. We'll have much more on Tennessee This Week. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. Before we let you go, this week we really want to take time to remember the life of Bill Williams, a longtime news anchor and familiar face on Knoxville airwaves. He passed away Monday night at the age of 91, and he was active truly up until the end. You would see him out in the community talking with folks. Sadly, the last time I saw Bill was at Margie Ison's funeral, which was not that long ago, but always a friendly face, very kind, a fierce competitor, but a friend as well. Right. And you worked with him, didn't you, Craig?
I worked with Bill at Channel 10, and he was a wonderful person. What you see on air was what you got in real life. He was a wonderful person. And of course, the lives that he touched were through his Monday's Child, trying to place people in foster homes, children in foster homes, and he had almost 100% of the children that he featured on that program that were adopted by loving parents. And many of them had special needs, and so they were difficult to adopt. So that legacy that he has in the community, the people that he touched through that program every Monday are hundreds of thousands of people in our community. So he will be missed. He was a very nice person, a great guy, and I used to go out on assignments with him and love our talks in the news cars. He was very interesting. He knew a lot about East Tennessee. So he will be missed. He was a wonderful guy.
Yeah, Lisa,
I liked him.
A wonderful legacy.
I gotta say, such an icon for Knoxville, and like Craig said, a historian, really. I mean, he lived the news for decades at this point and brought those stories to Knoxville. As someone who works with kids in foster care often, the Monday's Child segment was just so heartwarming for me every Monday when I would watch it and getting to see those kids. Like I said, that was such a legacy for him to leave.
That speaks so well of him and of our community for answering his call. George?
Well, I got to know Bill when I was the mayor's press secretary, and that's when I had my most interactions with him. And over the last few years, it's been via social media and stuff. But what I remember, what I thought about first when I heard about this was Bob Kessling once telling me that Bill Williams was a really good practical joke player. And secondly, that I have no idea. He was a newsman for decades. I have no idea. Was he liberal, conservative, moderate, left, right,
That's
middle?
how it should be.
And that is a testimony to his professionalism.
Absolutely. Well, he will be missed. He really maintained ties with local journalists and gave advice to a lot of folks. And those kinds of journalists are pretty rare these days, I would say.
Yeah, I'm sure he mentored hundreds of reporters
Yes, he did.
through the years that have gone on to different markets.
Our thoughts are with our friends at WBIR. Thanks for joining us.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Nexstar Broadcasting.